Hi everyone, so in the previous video we created a custom animation between Manny and the treasure chest. This video is essentially laying the prep work and completing all of the functionalities we need before we move on to smart objects and state trees for the next episode. In this episode we will create a weapons manager component which will allow any character to equip a wand or a sword mesh that can be found in the treasure chest. We will create a quick interaction system for our player to be able to interact with the treasure chest and play our animation. Instead of using Anim Montage, which you might be familiar with, I will show you how to create a generic level sequence and then bind the characters and the treasure chest at runtime to that level sequence. Furthermore, by using the level sequence, we can trigger events to occur at certain points, and this should make our lives a bit easier, and honestly it's just a different build method which you might not be familiar with. I did have a bit of video issues in my first part, so I had to redo it, but it should be okay. So let's jump in and let's get started. So in the previous video we created our animation for in the level sequence, and we called it, we had this level sequence that we created, which was Manny opening the chest, and we created two animations for it, and which are both linked together and are essentially contextual animations. Now before we go and create the put the interactions in and the smart objects in, I'm just going to create the weapons manager, and I've downloaded a sword mesh which is going to be used, but it's essentially going to be a pickup item. And I've also downloaded from Fab a wand, which is another static mesh, and these two are going to be my weapons, if you want to recall it, and these are free on Fab right now, so feel free to get your own or use your own for this. Okay, so I'm going to be creating a weapons manager, and I'm going to be creating an interaction system as well. So I'm going to first of all create a new folder, call it weapons, and it's going to be a actor class, BP weapon base, and each weapon is going to have, why is this, yeah, I'm just going to change that to 10. It's going to have a static mesh. I'm going to call it weapon mesh, and I'm also going to give it another scene root. Scene, which I'm going to call end location, which will just tell us where the weapon ends. And most importantly, I'm going to turn the collision of the weapon mesh to no collision, so that it doesn't interact with the enemy or anything like that. Now I'm going to first of all create two children, which are sword, there. I'm going to get my sword mesh. Okay, so now this is very big. Now I have, because I just done this video before, I know that this needs to be 0.075, and it needs to be in 90-degree rotation, minus 90, and it needs to be minus 10 in the X and 10 up. So this is just the location and rotation for when the hand R socket. Once again, create another child boot here, and this is going to be wand. I'm going to have the wand, and this is just going to be -10 in the X. One thing I am going to change, I'm going to put the end location further up, and so I'm going to change the snapping to 1, so it's a little bit and change, I'm lowering my camera speed. This is basically the point where the projectile will spawn from, and okay, we're not going to do it in this game, but if you were to do a hit reaction, you'd probably want to use these scene values for your spear trace or whatever trace you're doing. Okay, now I'm going to close all of these because I don't actually need them. I'm going to create another folder called enum, and it's just going to be enums for my attacks, or weapons, sorry. So enumeration, and it's going to be e_weapon type. I'm going to add an E in there and get rid of this. Now, essentially, in this project, there are going to be 3 weapon types. There's going to be the unarmed, which basically means no weapon, the sword, and wand. Now, I'm going to save all, actually, yeah. Okay, so now I'm going to create an actor component. So I'm going to create, it's going to be called BPC Weapon Manager. And this is basically any actor that has access to this component can pick up the weapons. So first things first, we're going to get the owner, cast to character, because in my game only character blueprints can have this have this component. So, and then promote to variable, yep, and that's fine. And then I'm gonna be honest with you, in this game I only need one weapon, which is change weapon. It will have one input, which is E_weapon type. It's going to be called new weapon type, and I'm going to have a current weapon name, and this will be of type E_weapon type. So first things first, we're going to check if the current weapon type is the same or is not equal to the new one. If they're not equal, then we can move on to the next bit. Now we're going to check whether the current weapon ref, which is BP weapon base. So after this point, we're deciding we're going to spawn something or change the weapon. So I'm going to do convert to validated get, and all I'm doing here is checking if this is valid or not. If this is valid, destroy it before you move on to the next thing. So I'm going to create a function which calls destroy weapon, and I'm going to get the current weapon, detach from actor, and then destroy actor, and then I'm going to sorry, I'm going to put S here, so it's sequence, and I'm just going to make it such that then we're resetting the variable reference. So first things first, we come here. If it is valid, destroy it. If it's not, then we can move on to the next part. Now we're going to be spawning this new variable here. So let's just, bring this one across for a second. Now we're going to do spawn actor from class. Now, I don't want it to be able to spawn just any actor, so I'm going to do BP weapon base, and I'm just going to promote it to a variable, call it weapon class, and just so it filters to the weapon class weapons, I'm going to then select BP weapon base class reference, and it's okay to change the variable type, and put this through here, and we're going to split the spawn transform. Now the reason why I did this is because our weapon class is essentially limited to all the children of the ones of weapon base, and if we had a variable in there in weapon base that we need to expose on spawn, then all of this would come up in this function here, which wouldn't come up in a generic class. Now we need to set this before we come to the spawn actor, and we actually need to use this, so this enum to do it. So I'm going to do create another function, call it set weapon class, and that's going to have an input, which is the enum, which is weapon type, and then I'm just going to do a switch on weapon type, and I'm literally just going to drag this on, so unarmed with none of them. Sword, we're going to pick and just do the sword one, and then finally wand, come here and pick the wand, and we don't actually need to return it because we are just setting this value, so it's all done there. Yeah, so and then we're going to call this function just before it, so set weapon class, and that will come here. Oh, and actually we forgot to do one thing, so and we can actually do this here. So if the weapon type is unarmed, then essentially we don't need to spawn anything from it. So I'm going to do from this enum, I'm going to do another equals enum, and just, unarmed is the first one selected. So if it's, and then take a branch out of that. If it is unarmed, then do nothing, or go to the end. If it's not, then we set the weapon class, spawn the actor, and so on. So I'm just going to join these two up. So the workflow is, and I'm just going to make this cleaner. We check the weapon and see if they're the same as the current weapon. If it's not, check if the current weapon is valid. If it is, destroy it. Then check if it's unarmed or not. If it's not unarmed, then we set the weapon class, spawn the actor, and now we're going to so current weapon now is set, and now we're going to attach. Actually, I'm going to drag off this. Attach actor to component, and it's so we're going to attach the weapon to our parent mesh, which is going to be our character, and get its mesh, and then drag it on, and I'm just going to use hand R, and we're going to snap to target rotation, and we're going to snap to target, snap to target, snap to target everything. As you know, I'm going to select this and keep it relative, just in case. And then finally, we're going to change the current weapon name to the new name. So, come here. I don't like, okay. The arrow went the wrong way, the line, so it's not looking right. Yeah, so I'm just going to get rid of this reading route node and do it again. So, come here. Oh no, that's fine. And just come here and go straight to there. Yep. And there's one thing that we just need to add. If it is, if it is unarmed, we just want to change this name to unarmed. And one final thing, this is just to save some time. I'm going to make the current weapon name private, and if anyone wants to know the current weapon name, because they will in the smart trees, get current weapon name. I'm literally just going to get it this way. That way it's just, cleaner, nicer, and we're not getting values from outside this class. So get weapon name, sorry. Okay, and now, so now we're going to create the treasure chest. So it's going to be BP, create a new BP class, and I'm going to call it actor, and I'm going to call it BP SO, which is smart object, and I'm going to call it treasure chest. Now, the treasure chest will have a couple of things. So first of all, it will have a skeletal mesh, which will be treasure chest, SK treasure chest, and that will be the treasure chest. It will also, so the way my game's gonna work is both the player and the enemy can interact with it. So the player can come up to the treasure chest, get its item, and so can the enemy. This makes it more dynamic and realistic, because why would the player not be able to get the treasure chest, but only the enemy can? So I'm going to add a box collision to give some overlapping, and actually, I'll do the box collision first. I'm going to make this slightly big and just go to 2, and gonna make this overlapping. Oh, sorry, collision. Change it to overlap all, and the treasure chest, I'm going to change, yeah, it's already preset, great, to no collision, and we want the treasure chest to be no collision so that when the smart object comes, it doesn't affect the navigation. And you'll see why that's important when we start doing smart objects. Yep. So now I'm going to be creating an interaction system just for the player to interact with. You shouldn't copy this. This is more about just honestly just testing whether or not this works. So this is just about testing the idea rather than a proper interaction system. So let's just create a new well, actually I already have an interface folder, and I've already, so in our previous project I created it. So there are two functions. The first is interact and get the interacting character, and the second one is you should like and subscribe and set these to true. So yeah, feel free to do that. I'm going to now go back to the treasure chest. And I'm going to go to class settings and class options, interfaces, and go to BPI smart treasure chest and get that in. And I'm also going to Control P and open up the third person character and go to class settings, interface, add BPI smart treasure chest, and I forgot to do one thing actually, sorry. In the variables I'm going to add held weapon, and I might have changed this name, sorry, this is a one. This video is because the other one, the audio didn't capture properly, so it might be named slightly different. That's E weapon type, and I'm going to expose on spawn an instance edible, and yeah, and now we're going to do two things. So check two events, overlap and end overlap. That's what I want. Yep, sorry. So the other actor, check if it's does object implement my BPI smart treasure chest. If it does, then we will, and this should be done in widgets, but I'm not going to do that. And I'm going to do set timer by event and 0.1 looping and custom wrong one, create event, add, I'm going to call play print, and all this is going to do is every 0.1 second it's just going to print string, and I say press E to interact, and I'm gonna write this to variable and just call it print timer, and I'm pressing Q to line it all up, and I'm going to have another variable or another event which is end overlap, and literally all this one is going to do is come here, get the print timer and clear and invalidate it. So just reset it essentially. Okay. Now, and I'm going to now, first of all, third person character, add our BPC weapons manager. And sorry, where did I come here? And I'm just going to add my event, which will be the press key E. And I will get my capsule event, get overlapping actors. And I'm not going to do any class filters because we should really be assuming that they could all have our interface function. So get it, and then I'm just going to do interact, which is this one. And the great part is, if our character or if our object hasn't implemented this correctly, nothing will happen. Our code won't break or anything, so we don't need to worry about that. And the interacting character is a reference to self. Yeah. And now that's done, I'm going to also implement the function. So interact, what they should do is they should come here and check that they have the get component by class. Yeah, so we want to see if the interacting has our BPC weapons manager. Oh, sorry. If it is valid. Oh, sorry, wrong thing. If is valid, then we will change weapon and come here and just get our held weapon. Yeah, okay. So now we've created essentially all the code that we need. One thing I will say, so this is the default third person level. Now there's one thing, it's a very good level and it's probably better than I could create, but there's one thing I don't like about this level, which is that 000 is essentially in this dark spot here somewhere, and all our weapons, everything in our code will be spawned there. And if I'm being honest, in your game you should always have like 000 as the safe point where nothing happens. So I'm going to come here, just click on everything except for the world layers, and I'm going to change this to 1000 and literally just go 1, maybe just 2 and 3. Now that should just mean everything is up by 3000, if you can see. So everything is there, and I'm going to now add a cube and move it to 0, 0, 0, and just make it, well actually I don't need to change the Z, but I'm going to change it to 20, well 20, and keep this 1. So yeah, and I'm just gonna move this, well not this much further down, but yeah, I just want, yeah, so now 000, this position is free. Everything can be spawned here. It's no problem. Every sequence that we have can be done here, and yeah. So first of all, any weapon that will come spawned in the world will be spawned here, then it will attach to our player. Meanwhile, we'll be here not being able to see anything that's happening down there. Okay, so now let's add our treasure chest. And I'm just going to do, sorry, Alt it again. So I'm gonna have 3 in the world. So the first is sword, the second one is wand, and the third one will be unarmed. And let's just, it's got a new default, editor default, so let's just see. So yep, press E to interact, and I know it's got no collision, but that's fine. So E to interact, that's not doing what I think it's supposed to be doing. Okay, so now let's do some debugging. Attach character to component. Let's just see. Attach character. Oh, we haven't. Okay. So first we'll get rid of this one. We haven't set its weapon type, so we need to set that in. Now, hopefully that was just the error. Yep, can you see? So we've got sword here, wand here, and if we just move out, just so we can see, yep, so we're moving with our wand, and then essentially nothing. Yep, so okay, so now we created our interaction system. We now just need to make sure that we change this with our animations that we created from the last video. Now, there are 3 ways to do this. The first is contextual animations. Now, I don't know how to do that, and there are some videos on that, but I don't really prefer that because you don't get access to the various event tracks, which are very useful. The second way is to do the play montage method, which is very decent, and you can definitely do it, but I'm going to show you another way, which is the sequencer method, because I feel like people are very wary of the sequencer, and I feel like it's actually quite useful. And the added bonus is with the sequencer, I'm going to make it so that I get a camera cutscene for my player character, but the enemies don't get that. So if an enemy were to interact with this object, they would just get the normal one. The player will get a cool cutscene. Okay, so first of all, this is our levels up here, and we're going to go down to 0, 0. Now I'm just going to duplicate this. This is in the animation folder, which you should have, and just call it baked. Open it up. Okay, so we used possessable instead of spawnable. That was my mistake. Always when you're making animation, choose spawnable when you create it. Don't use possessable. But that's why we've got these errors. So we're going to have to create some actors to assign them. So let me just find Manny. Yep, so Manny simple. And I'm going to get a treasure chest. Yeah. Okay, so now come to my sequence. I'm going to assign a character, and I'm going to do SK. Oh, what happened there? Why is my mouse not moving? SK man simple assign a character. Yep, there it is. Sorry, don't know what happened there. And I'm going to assign this one to treasure chest 4. Right, so this is all on 0. And if I play it right now, it should do as it would expect. Now we've already baked the animation, so I'm going to get rid of these 2 rigs, and I'm going to put the animation linked, sorry, I'm going to go to, that was my mistake. I'm going to go to 0 and then change it to a linked. And for why is this struck here? No idea. Okay, so let's just check that. Yeah, that's fine, just how we expect it. Now, for money, I'm going to change it to spawnable first. And the reason why is I don't want this to be a skeletal mesh actor. When you're binding, especially to characters, you want them to be in the character class. That will give you access to any characters. But you can do your specific class as well, but I'm going to do character. That way in the smart tree, smart object, it will come in very handy, and it will make it much easier to bind to it without having to do various changes. So we've got the character here, and we've got to add in the character mesh, because every character has a mesh, and then we're going to put the animations in. So first of all, save it, and then where's the anim class? Sorry, and then I'm going to convert it to a, oh yeah, so I need to add a default, so I'm going to add in the default mesh, which will be Mani Simple. Now it will move it down, so you don't need to worry about that, but we can just add in the animation linked. Now there's going, and I made the same mistake I did with the treasure chest. I did it frame 13. Everything's linked to frame 0, so we're going to, yep, now it perfectly lines up. Now there's gonna be a mistake in this, but and I'll tell you why there's gonna be a mistake, but and to fact you got understood quite quickly why. But I'm just gonna, let's just run it as you would, and I'm going to change this back to possessable now. Yep. Okay, so let's save that. Bake. Now let's come to our BP treasure chest. Now I'm going to create a new custom event, and actually, sorry, I'm just going to change group comment on this, call it interface functions for player, and I'm going to call this one a custom event, which is bind to player, no sorry, bind play sequence. And I'm going to add a give character ref. And by the way, if you feel more comfortable with playing montages, go with that. Just, I'm going to show you a different method because I don't feel like people do this one enough. So yeah, create level sequence player. Now in an ideal world we would have multiple smart objects, so I'm going to call it I'm going to have it in dynamic one, so interactable sequence. So what would happen is we'd have another child of this, let's say a table, and they would have its own sequence. That's why I'm going to have it like that. And also, sorry, in my sequence I'm going to, like I promised, add a camera, and I'm just going to, sorry, take control of the camera. And I'm just going to start here. And just slowly work. And then just come here. and then just right now come here, and then finally as it's coming to an end we're going to just go back to here. Now this is not going to be a great sequence, and I'm sure you know you can come up with a better sequence, but I just want to put something in there for the time being. Okay, so let's create so the level sequence, the default one, is going to be the one we baked. Now we're going to get the override set override instance data. So we're going to need to do three things. We're going to need to change, first of all, the position of the sequence, so it's at where the treasure chest is. Then we're going to need to bind our characters to it, so bind this treasure chest and the character to it, and then finally play it. So first things first, to get the override instance, you need to override the instance data. You need to first set it. You need to call this function override instance data and then get that set. So now it's allowed to change the data. Then you need to cast to default. Get default instance data. Cast to default level sequence instance data, and then set transform origin. Now you can do set transform origin actor, but I always just prefer to do this so I can have full control of it. So I go get actor transform and literally just add it in. Now what we did here is we're saying this sequence override the instance data, get it, cast to it, and then change its location. So now it should play at this skeletal mesh's location. Second is binding it. So we're going to come out here and we're going to do set bindings. Now we need to do two bindings. So the first one is, and I'm going to do get sequence binding. We're going to pick our sequence, and even though we are picking our sequence and it doesn't look like it's dynamic, we're just sorting out the relationship. So we're going to have BP treasure chest, and then make an array, sorry, and then add a reference to self. And then I'm just literally going to duplicate this part and then make array, and I'm just going to change this BP to SK Mani, and then I'm going to, this is going to be the character ref, so I'm just going to draw this. So yeah, so let's just put this all down here. So first thing here, we're getting the instance data, the location, changing it. Then we're changing the bindings here, so we're changing the treasure chest binding to the treasure chest itself, this treasure chest, and then we're changing the character location to our character ref, and because and we need to link it to this out character. So, and actually I don't like how this line is coming from here, so I'm just gonna reroute node, just gonna add that in there, and then I'm going to just have it like this, and I'm just fixing up the lines. Sorry, it's my desire to, otherwise it just looks messy and I don't like it. Yeah, that's better. And then here, there's two. Okay, I'm happy with that. Okay, so and then finally we're going to play sequence player. So yeah. So as you can see, the workflow now is get this location, change the location, change the binding, then play sequence. And the one thing, and there are many advantages of using a sequence player over the play montage, but the one thing you can do which you can't do on play montage is you can change the initial settings. Now this is very underused, so you can make it faster, slower, decide the runtime. So first things first, we're definitely going to disable movement input. I don't want any player to be able to change anything when they're doing that. Now this camera cuts, I'm going to make this a select. And the option I'm going to say is and I'm going to make it a soft wrong one, is this is the one I want, and I'm just going to say if it's the third BP, third person character, which we know is our player character. If it is that, then we're going to, if it's not that, then we're going to enable it. If it is that, then we're going to keep the camera cuts in. So if I've done this right, then we should be able to bind this sequence, attach our character to it, and then play that cool camera scene that I forgot to link it up, sorry. Bind play sequence. Bind play sequence. Oh, this is, yeah. I need to just get this one here. Get rid of this. Yeah, so if you can see, it's rotated by 90, and we obviously don't want that. Now the camera sequence is not the best, but yeah. Now this is a very, very common problem, and it's not actually a problem with the sequence, it's the problem with the way Mani is set up, which is that it's rotated by 270 degrees. So we have to essentially counteract that rotation in our sequence. So when we come to here, we're going to change Mani's rotation, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm probably gonna get this wrong, so I think it should be 180, but if it's not, then it's 0. And I'm gonna also edit section, actually, yeah, I'm gonna, so when the sequence ends, what do I want to keep the same and what do I want to go back to normal? So the animation, it should go back to Mani Simple, let the animation blueprint to do it. But I want the transform to be in the same location, so I'm going to do edit section and do keep state. The project default is restore state, and that's always the case for all of them. For the treasure chest, I also want that to be the same, so the animation, the edit section, I'm going to do to keep state. So once you've opened the chest, you've essentially opened it, you can't reopen it. And yeah, do I want to fiddle around a bit with the final move, yeah, let's just do this one. And let's just change it to further up so it's just a little bit clearer. Yeah. No. Why did that happen? That shouldn't. Let's look at the transform track and the rotation. Okay, so I've got 2 keys in there, so that's okay. So that's the thing. I thought I was doing on 0, but I wasn't, and it was doing on there. So I had 2 keys in there. So I'm going to get rid of this key, and now it's on 180. And I'm not sure if this 180 is right. It might be 180 or 1 or 0. Yeah, 180 is right. Okay. Okay, so yeah, that's what we wanted. Now there's another problem where I can click again, which defeats the purpose of it being open because I just opened it. Yeah. So, we need to fix 2 things now. So first of all, I'm going to... Okay, I'm going to work on the level sequence now. Now, the other part, so you can add a cool camera track and you can do all the great stuff of Niagara and course cuts, but what you can also do is add in, and I'm just going to put Manny default in there just so I can see something, because that's gonna, yeah. Now, the rotation is off, but that doesn't matter because I just need to know the various points of when Manny's hand goes on. So, yeah. Yeah, so there. So, we're going to now, at this point here, I want Manny to equip whatever weapon there is onto his hand. So, we're going to, at the beginning, so it's at 129, but at the beginning of the, and actually at frame 1, just to be on the safe side, I'm going to add 2 event tracks, which are always triggers, and I'm going to click on this, so this adds a new key, and then right click on the key, properties, and create a new endpoint. So what this does, it opens the director blueprint, and I essentially have access to a variable, and this is a blueprint variable that you can run during the sequence event. Now, director blueprints come with 2 event graphs. There's the normal one that you're always used to, and there's a sequencer events, and these are all tied into the sequencer and are linked some way to the sequencer. So I'm just going to call this one set treasure chest, and literally all I'm going to do is set treasure chest. I just want a reference to it. Then I'm going to come here and add an event track trigger. Same thing. Right click, properties, new bind, and called set char. And I'm literally going to promote to variable and say character ref. And actually, sorry, I'm just going to change and get rid of the 4 because it doesn't really need to be the 4th treasure chest. Okay. Now, at where his, sorry, let me just make this wider, and let's just move this along. So yeah, so at this point here, 144, well actually, was it, yeah, here. I'm going to create a new event track for Manny, and I'm going to right click. Now, when you say endpoint, these are just matching it's like event dispatchers. They're just matching on which event to bind on. Now, quick binds will just refer to the sequences already in there, but we don't want to do that, so we want to create our own endpoint, and I'm going to call this equip weapon, and it's going to be well, we already have the character, but we can use this one, but I'm just going to say get component by class. It's going to be BPC weapons manager, and then I'm going to check is valid. Now it's going to be definitely valid for it to be accessible to the sequence, but we still want to double check. I'm going to change weapon, and now we can get this from the BP treasure, that weapon holding type, and put it in there. So yeah, now, and the other thing that we're going to do, so we're going to have another variable at the end. Now this is going to be this variable is going to be for the treasure chest, and it's right now it's just going to create one material, which is not create a material. This one is going to be called disable smart object, and we're just going to disable this treasure chest from being identified by the smart object, but also by the interactable statement. So right now I'm just going to say just a function which is custom event chest TC, which is treasure chest opened, and I'm just going to have a variable in there called can opened. Yep. And for the time being, what it's going to do is going to change it to true. And now that I'm here, I'm going to add this variable in and say get b, and if it is open, you can the player can no longer interact with it. So yeah. You might have noticed that whenever I go start the play PIE playing editor, I always close the sequencer, and the reason I do that is when the sequencer open, it kind of collides with the PIE, and you should always close the sequencer when playing in editor, because it will just cause weird bugs and errors. So yeah, just a helpful tip. It's something that I've just done a lot. So oh, sorry, I was wrong. This should be linked to the false, not to the true. Yeah, so now and yeah, and I also did that thing where you did actually see the opening, so now you couldn't see the wand was missing in there. Okay, so why is this shouldn't okay, so there's clearly been a mistake somewhere, because did I forget to equip it? Sorry. Okay, yep, I haven't done it. So, TC opened. Yep. And when we come to smart objects, this TC opened will essentially mean that it will disable the smart object and also the interaction. So, close this. Yep. And now we come here, and I'm just going to do the same thing. Well, first of all, just to show you, I can no longer interact here. And this should change it to a, yep, sword, just as we expected. Okay, so that pretty much sums what I wanted to do here in this tutorial. Congratulations, you have created a weapons manager with 2 weapons and a generic level sequence that binds dynamically. I am so sorry it took this long, but I promise you we can now go ahead with the smart object in the next episode without worrying about any functionality. In the next episode, we'll create a custom smart object definition for the enemy AI to find, and to make it so that the enemy doesn't find or claim the smart object if the player is near. And remember, this is my way of dynamically binding a level sequence and creating a weapons manager. It's not necessarily the right way. See you in the next one.